have an answer for that half of the deck, and they do shut down alignment, or at least they threaten too much counter pressure if that happens. And it's just kind of a snowballing effect, right? If you are managing to get a big Soul Rend down versus the Glowfly board, suddenly your deck is very thin, and then you can start playing the Baron Scavengers for 1 mana. You can get the Bristlebacks online, and so it's gonna be on DragonMan to kind of tread that balance and see if he can manage to take down XiaoT on the handlock. Opening hand, though, nothing quite so inspired for other players, either player, so it's going to be full mull.
Not a bad hand, though, at all for DragonMan, with Overgrowth obviously fantastic to find, and even the Moonlit Guidance seems pretty good. It's the kind of hand where I don't think I'd play it on turn 2, given that you already have the Overgrowth, but just as a way to double down on more card draw, or a way to discover Anaconda in the mid-game. It's not a bad card to have at all.
And so if we're talking about particularly Anaconda from Moonlit Guidance, it could actually still be played on turn 2 just to like allocate that mana, because then you could go for on turn 3 Coin Overgrowth into potentially a tempo Anaconda, because you might have discovered an additional copy. Granted, it's not an option here. I'd be looking at the Nourish, but the Innervate, I mean, is also something you can consider to get to a quicker Cenarion ward potentially. Over on XiaoT's side, though, it looks like an insta backfire to me. What do you think?
Agreed. I think you just want to start getting the highest chance of a Netheron possible, or maybe the Nulls, as soon as you can. I guess thinking about what he's actually going to spend his mana on over the next few turns, like if you go backfire, you go up to, well, there'd be 8, 9, so tapping next turn, you have to play something else alongside it, but just like tap Slinger, I think would be fine on the following turn if you don't find anything better. And you have a decent chance to find Tour Guide or Mortal Coil to go along with it at that point. As the hand now starts to come together. Flesh Giant, Gold Shine, even the Scavenger could become playable in the next few turns. It's looking reasonable now for XiaoT. It's coming together.
Certainly does, but for DragonMan, the pickup of Glowfly Swarm is also major for the next turn, even though it's a little bit off curve, given that XiaoT doesn't have a Soul Rend for himself right now. And I'm glad that you brought up like the Shadowblade Slinger as a worst case scenario type of thing to play, just to get your hand space able to let you keep rolling with the taps, because it's a card that is not very necessary in the matchup, in my opinion. Yes, it can snipe down a Glowfly, but I'm more concerned about it diluting the Raised Dead pool as a minion that is not Null or Flesh Giant that you could get back.
Very good point. XiaoT not too concerned with it right now, and I think just dumping cards from hand as he's going for here is very important, because he has another backfire, he wants to get more hand space, and also just as a proactive way to deal with Glowfly. Because he played this Slinger, it just means it's in play. He doesn't have to spend any mana on it at all to clear off the board. And while these minions are a little bit annoying, unless it's exactly Solar Arbor, I don't think he's too afraid right now.
Right. I do think he is still going to trade off a fair amount of these Glowflies, probably both the minions going into trades rather than face here. But what XiaoT does with the rest of his mana is honestly quite awkward here, because it's not as though the Shadowblade Slinger is a prime Raised Dead target, but it's also the only minion that can get in the Raised Dead pool this turn. So is it ever, do you think, maybe like a tempo Bloodshard Bristleback, which kind of has synergy with the Flesh Giant?
I like it, yeah. Unless you want to go for like double Raised Dead to go for 2 Shadowblade Slingers if you're really afraid, which seems massively overkill to me. I would much rather get this Null Dead, or the Bristleback, I suppose, then go for Raised Dead, get the Slingers back, get the Nulls back, clear the board. You're happy as Larry at that point.
In fact, though, the card in DragonMan's hand is not Larry, but Jerry, who I believe doesn't actually draw anything anymore, because both Nourishes are already in hand. So that's a bit unfortunate. This is not a version that runs Mr. Smite, so there's no additional utility to the Carpenter at this point. DragonMan does have access to Insta-Stenarian Ward if he likes, but it does kind of lose potential synergy later on with the Solar Eclipse. He's gone for the Innervate and then thought about whether it's going to be Solar Nourish or Cenarion, but he's trying to go for the 8-drop right now and gets a pretty decent outcome with the Matis Bomber.
Yeah, it's weird when just vanilla stats are good enough, but I guess a 9-8 is just pretty powerful here. And XiaoT has shown he doesn't have that much in the way of removal. And so maybe this can stick around for a while. But I don't know, are you at all surprised to see this play for DragonMan? Like, it's obviously the immediately most powerful play he can make, but it does massively neuter what he can do in the next few turns.
Yeah, the way I was looking at the Cenarian ward, I thought he was just maybe doing that to create hand space for a Solar Nourish for 6 draws the next turn.
Sure.
Maybe something like that, but I'd agree that it's definitely not the highest power spike, right? We could have seen like Nourish and then hold out for a Bloom or an Anaconda to try and get the Solar Cenarian instead. For now though, XiaoT leveraging the Altar of Fire, allowing him to, if he wanted to go backfire after that, also get to the 10 card breakpoint. But for now, just happy to go with the Slingers. The second one is going to deal 6 damage, right? So you can weave in a tap to get it to the 8 breakpoint to one-shot the Mattis Bomber.
Yeah, looks pretty perfect. Means that next turn, double Baron Scavenger is going to be available, plus a 0-mana Giant as well, if you can fit in another tap there, which sounds perfect. Exactly how you want to punish these Druids, by just having stats on stats on stats. And now DragonMan is in a situation where he needs to get Anaconda as literally the next card, or I think this one is just already over.
Definitely seems like it. Letting rip with the alignment when he's already seen the Knolls, and he knows that the Giant is pretty much for free at this point anyway, so it's not so much a punish from XiaoT that it happens this turn, but it is a desperation play for DragonMan still. Alongside the Giant, XiaoT can play one other card, and I would favor that to just be the Baron Scavenger. Maximum stats on board, and maximum chance of sticking Battle Master for damage on the next turn. Is there any consideration for going Battle Master now to push an additional 7?
How much are you setting up for next turn? If you push 9 now, they go down to 23 on the following turn. So you're very able to kill them on the following turn if they don't do anything in response. So I think just putting down the most stats in the Battle Master makes sense. Oh, sorry, in the Scavenger.
Yeah. I agree as well. All of the main threats position in the middle as well to make sure that the Baron Scavenger, like XiaoT has very little mana to work with, right? So no time to mess about with the Congo line positioning.
Oh, did he discover one of his Nourishes?
Maybe he did. That's my bad. I thought both of them were already in hand, but lots of cards to be drawn here, looking for Anaconda. She can still make miracles happen, but is nowhere to be seen. And that's just kind of it, right? Because any further card draw will come from this last Nourish, but then he has no mana to play with because any blooms that'll be drawn will cost 1 from this point because of the alignment aura.
I can see.
Agreed. I think that's just it. He throws it down, and we see XiaoT taking that first game. Warlock out of the way is a nice way to start. Warlock can feel a little bit vulnerable to some of the combo decks, maybe the more aggressive strategies as well. And given that DragonMan had Garrote Rogue left over as well, it's nice to just get the win with the Warlock for XiaoT right out the gate, and means that he now is left with mostly his more aggressive decks left over in this series.
Yeah, that's right. He's got Face Hunter, the Pirate Warrior, and the OTK Demon Hunter. Sorry, I didn't quite catch what was the ban there, but 2 out of 3 are indeed very aggressive decks, and could line up well still into this Druid from DragonMan, because I'm concerned about the Anaconda's place in the meta at the moment. It is the Face Hunter that was banned away, so XiaoT could try and, if he thinks DragonMan will line up the Anaconda deck again, just smork him down with a bunch of these pirates. The Warrior, I think, is situated very well to do that because it's not the version that's running Bulwark or the Rancor. It's got maximum aggressive potential, even with the Cult Neophyte slotted in there, so that even makes the Druid matchup better, in my opinion.
And here it is, that Cult Neophyte slotted into the Quest Warrior. It's so interesting to see all the different ways that this very versatile deck can be brought from these players. We saw from Ace and Walder, I think both earlier, who went with a more reactive strategy, a more control-leaning strategy, with Mutinous and Brawl in their decks. We see some players going with Man the Cannons, right, as the 2-cost spell to give them a little bit more answering power. Whereas here, XiaoT is just doubling down on that pressure, slotting in 2 Cold Neophytes alongside the myriad of pirates that are filling out this deck. And to me, it makes sense. I think if you are going to go with this deck, you just want to lean into its strengths as much as possible. Right. It's generally better in Hearthstone to do one thing well than to do multiple things okay. And so just going all in on this tempo aggressive strategy, it means that I think XiaoT could be in a good spot to potentially once again target this Druid. As you said, feels like it's in limbo in this metagame where it's a little bit too vulnerable to aggro, which is a little bit too prevalent in this metagame. And so that could really be, I think, the weak link heading forward for DragonMan.
I agree. Before we go and talk a little bit more about XiaoT's lineup, we can take a look at DragonMan's version of Handlock here, which is very similar to what we just saw from XiaoT's side. He's got the 2 altars of fire in there, which have been falling in and out of fashion, I suppose. XiaoT himself only running the 1 copy alongside 1 copy of Mortal Coil, but Handlock has cut the coil altogether, and that place has mostly been taken over by the Slinger. I think that is fine to exclude that card because we've already seen that this version of Warlock leans less into the Blightborn Tamsin win condition. It's nice to have it if somehow all of your threats get exhausted, but mainly you're just trying to get Flesh Giants down as soon as possible. The thing I wanted to ask was actually about XiaoT's Quest Warrior, because we talked about how we both like the kind of all-in on aggression game plan, but what do you think about Lord Barov still being slotted in there even without Provoke to go alongside it?
Honestly, I think it still makes sense because you don't have the Provoke, as you said. You don't have the Rancor that was in a lot of the decks beforehand. But Barov's still just often a really big tempo tool. There's a few decks in the metagame where you just want to be able to equalize the health on a lot of the minions. The Mirror, for example, it can be a great comeback tool with Shiver Their Timbers if you're behind in the mid-game. Obviously, Handlock, it can be incredibly powerful. Paladin against all the big taunts, Barov can be super powerful. Even just quest rewards, maybe that's a way to swing back after they go for a big clear and they're 7-7 at the end of it all. So for me, again, like I say, I often laud XiaoT as his greatest strength being optimization of decks. And I think this one for him, again, just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, can completely get behind it. I mean, this is already the most aggressive version of the Pirate Warrior that we've seen throughout the entire MT, I think. So I think it is definitely leaning into its strengths more, as you said. The Mulligan interests me a bit from XiaoT, though, because he kept 1 and 4 alongside the quest, which doesn't strike me as the most intuitive curve. Do you think Sword Eater is a priority in any way versus Handlock?
I don't think so. It's I mean, there's a couple of minions they might throw down in the mid game that you want to chew through, but I think it's just about putting as much attack on power each turn as you possibly can.
Well, XiaoT does have the option of playing Sword Eater as early as now, but with the way this hand is shaping up, I kind of like holding onto the coin for the Anchorman and probably even just ignoring the tour guide. I don't see any big spell he would like to lock out on this upcoming turn with the Neophyte, so I would land on just going for the freebooter here.
Close, isn't it? I guess the big spell would be Soul Rend that you're trying to hit on the other side, which, to be fair, would be kind of annoying if they go for it on this board. It means that your best response next turn is just coin Anchorman as opposed to freebooter to get that quest completed and keep pulling ahead. And so for XiaoT here, it does put even more attack on board and deny that Soul Rend. So again, I think it's just doubling down on that aggressive potential with the most attack every turn.
Yeah, that is true. Like, Soul Rend didn't cross my mind because I was imagining the board to only have 2 minions, but if you are going to go wider and have a Neophyte, then the plan kind of weaves together even more cleanly. However, the Null on that turn really disincentivized the coin Anchorman play. It's just not that nice of a trade to have only 1 health left on the Anchorman. So XiaoT here, I guess, debating whether he wants to overwrite his hatchet with the Sword Eater or just go for the freebooter. And as it happens, the freebooter is even more attack. So I was looking at that. But it looks like he's just going to go for the Anchorman without immediately proccing the Frenzy on this, accepting that it can die to, what do you call it? The Unstable Shadow Bolt. Sorry, that's not even in the list from DragonMan as I see it.
Yeah, I think that's been cut from most lists to make room for the Slingers now.
Ah, I see.
Which does mean, obviously, it could still die if they have some kind of way of going, like, I don't know, double raise dead, some nonsense like that. But realistically, I think it's a very survivable play for XiaoT. He's likely to see the draw on this Anchorman. And as a result of that, he's just pulling further and further ahead. As long as he gets himself Rakara on turn 8 latest, he should be fine. And with the way this is shaping out, I think it will be even sooner than that. He can just go Sword Eater this turn, double Pirate next turn, and Rakara on 7. He's got everything he needs.
Very clean, and he's got the option to take the card draw on the 4/6 as well. But honestly, I'm valuing the 6 health on the Anchorman more than the eventual card draw you could get from the Frenzy effect. So I do like the Sword Eater play, either with the Shiver Their Timbers to get rid of the Gold Charnel or the swing from the Sword Eater weapon. But if we're talking full aggression here, he could even weave in the Hatchet swing and use the Timbers to get away of the get rid of the 5/2. Gonna hold on to it though.
Hey. Oh, I was going to say you and XiaoT finally agreed on a play. You kind of did, almost did. You were closer that time than you've been before.
DragonMan is in a pickle here. He's got all of these cards that benefit from being at 10 cards or less in deck, but almost no draw effects. Like, the best one is Tour Guide, and that then is only just saving him 1 mana. So really needs to find Soul Rend soon. Altar of Fire. Backfire is a big one as well, but not that much hand space to work with.
Yeah, he can go Drain Soul, Backfire, which would then give him 0 mana Giant, right? And I believe Quest Progression as well to heal up for a further 3. So he would end up at 16 with a Giant in play, but he's facing down a lot of pressure then. It's just 10 damage straight up on the other side, which means Mr. Smite, I think, just ends the game if he goes for that play.
True, but I did kind of like the idea of still getting some type of counter pressure online, because that's still going to be the problem next turn, right? DragonMan needs to hope that the Smite is not there and progress to the point where he can go for the big swings, which is the 10 cards left in deck. And he takes it even one step further by not even going for Drain Soul, developing the Neophyte and saying that, XiaoT, you cannot have 3 damage, but he indeed does have that, and then some.
Yeah, he can go for the Fogsail Freebooter, the Stormwind Freebooter, I think either way. Cannonball going face seals it out anyway. And XiaoT taking game 2, the Pirate Warrior also just running over this Warlock as his own Warlock ran over the Druid. DragonMan is just on the back foot right from the get-go against this very focused strategy we're seeing from that glorious specimen in XiaoT. I think he's just shown some very, very precise and well thought out gameplay.
Absolutely, and it could end up being the first loss for DragonMan throughout the entire Swiss. He's gone 7-0 so far, both of our players, but so far XiaoT is not even making it look close. So is DragonMan the type of player that is used to being on the back foot and then looking to just take a reverse sweep? I think it's possible. The OTK Demon Hunter on XiaoT's side, I can see that falling prey to the likes of Alignment Druid, but the handlock on DragonMan's side also is a bit of a close matchup, right? I think that one is not nearly as OTK favored as I thought it was at the beginning, because good handlock players do kind of tread that balance of not playing too hard into Glide and focusing on getting the Flesh Giant discounts in as soon as possible, so that post-Glide they have the best odds of counter pressuring immediately.
True.
But looking at the build for XiaoT, nothing too out of the ordinary here. It's really just a question of whether you want to run Viper or Need for Greed in that last tradable spot.
And I think we've seen a couple situations where Need for Greed just about makes more sense for me. I'm not completely sold on this card. I wasn't on board the hype train that some players were when it was first announced. They thought it was going to be God's gift to OTK Demon Hunter, but it's proven to be just good enough. Like, post-glide, having a card that just straight up draws you 3, even if you have to pay 4 or 5 mana for it, is so worth it. That makes the world of difference. And so, fully on board with XiaoT's game plan here, and fully on board with his starting hand as well. This is the juice with an OTK Demon Hunter. Plenty of draw heading into that quest progression.
Sigil and Tusk Piercer together is the absolute dream, not only because they're the most efficient way of setting up quest progression for turn 3, it also just allows you to kind of allocate the draws, right? Sometimes you don't want to overcomplete in this matchup, and Tusk Piercer, Sigil, and the tradable that you get from Tusk Piercer are all draws in increments of 1. So you can choose at what point you want to stop drawing and start saving the draws for the next turn and the next level of quest progression. And on top of that, he's got the glide as well, which is amazing for dealing with handlock. It's not going to be hard to get that in outcast position towards the left, but XiaoT does have to kind of plan out his timing for all of that. Is it going to be Sigil plus Tusk this turn? That's where my first instinct would be.
Same, yeah. I mean, I could start to think if there's any ways you could get glide on turn 3. I don't think there is. But even if you could, you wouldn't really want to, right? Because you want to let your opponent draw a few more cards first, and then go for glide on either turn 4 or turn 5, more likely, leading up into a nice, clean Kurtrus generation. DragonMan can do the best he can, dumping all of these removal cards along the way to set up for a less powerful glide from DragonMan. But realistically, his game plan is just pray that it's not there for XiaoT.
He does have this Neophyte, though, which will be able to come down going into XiaoT's turn 4.
True.
I mean, DragonMan has not chosen to play it this turn into a possible glide, but I think he knows that XiaoT doesn't necessarily want to glide into a turn where he invested a Sigil, right? It's like way over completion on the quest, so I think it's totally fine for DragonMan to hold out on the Neophyte for a little bit longer. And there is some counterplay available, right? Just with Neophyte Tour Guide, that's pretty good minions to put in the Raise Dead pool for this matchup. Anything that can be cheaply replayed and keep him cycling through the deck, cheaply discounting the Giant, I think is where DragonMan's head should be at. But for XiaoT for now, looks like he is going to complete stage 1 with the double jump and I suppose a swing of the Tusk Piercer.
Yeah, I guess he's just wondering if he can ever get away with not breaking the Tusk Piercer on this turn. With this outcome, yes, I think he does obviously have to progress the quest, but I like that he took a few turns to, made a few plays that gave him the opportunity. If he'd gotten Spectral Sight or Runner off of the Illidari studies, he could have saved the weapon for post-glide. As it happens, though, I don't think he'll be too upset with how this is working out. With potentially even 0 mana Moarg, you could just dump that next turn to go alongside the glide. That feels like a very expendable card to make sure your hand is nice and dense with card draw after the glide.
And it's still doable, even with the Neophyte. The coin replaces itself with the 1 mana spent. However, XiaoT deliberately saved the Sigil last turn, I think, to not be activated going into a glide turn. So if he wants to, he can hold out a little bit longer, but that does strike me as a bit greedy, so I like letting rip with the glide this turn. He is not going to dump the Moarg. Can be still very useful later on to hit certain breakpoints. And the other X factor that we haven't even talked about yet in the matchup is Altar of Fire, which has entered the hand right on time, because I think we've seen this one too many times in APAC. That card can instantly burn the win condition from XiaoT and perhaps disincentivizes dumping cards too aggressively from the Demon Hunter side.
Well, let's see.
Glide gone. Greed gone. Arcanist.
Okay.
Okay. I would say that
DragonMan
glide being gone is a big deal for DragonMan's information, though, going forward. Like, he can play Blackfires relatively safely from this point.
Oh, well, he thinks he can, right? Because one of the glides was discovered from an Illidari studies, right? So Oh, and there's another one if you needed it, which means any information DragonMan thought he had is just rapidly flying out the window. And here for XiaoT, am I crazy for just wanting to go Sigil Glide again?
No, I don't think so. It seems pretty good. Like, you might even dump the Immolation as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, Alutemu, where are you at? It's happening again. All right, well, DragonMan, it's a bit of a disaster for him. He's had to float 2 mana 2 turns in a row, and anything he was planning with his hand has completely fizzled. Kurtrus available to XiaoT, and DragonMan has no counter pressure available to stop it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Gia, if nothing else, this series is fantastic preparation for DragonMan before he heads into APAC Grandmasters, because he's going to have to get used to this happening if he wants to be able to keep his sanity in Grandmasters.
Shakes his head and nods it. He knows what's up. He knows he is far behind here, but he also knows there is still an Altar of Fire in his deck, and there is still a chance to burn Il'gynoth. It's not over yet, Derek.
Correct. Yeah, I thought he was running 1, but it's XiaoT running 1. Sorry, he has got 2 in the deck. So like you say, not over yet. We're still going to give him a chance, because what would be more APAC than 5 glides? It's 5 glides into an Altar of Fire to burn Il'gynoth at the end of all of it.
Let me open a new burger joint. 5 glides. Okay, well, XiaoT, even if DragonMan finds his next Altar of Fire in a timely fashion, XiaoT can just very likely find his Il'gynoth on the upcoming turn. We're looking at double Spectral Sights back-to-back in Outcast position. Only 13 cards left in the deck. It's gonna be very unlucky for XiaoT to not find the Il'gynoth on time from this position.
Oh, he just plays the plays the Anetheron as well for its full mana cost. A disgusting Hearthstone play, and one that is just going to see him losing the game next turn anyway. He's not quite dead yet. It's 1 mana off, right, for XiaoT. But it's got to be good enough, right? You can just go Talented Arcanist Immolation Aura, and then also just fit in the Spectral Sight as well if you needed.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, having to use one of the spell damage pieces, of course, does then not guarantee XiaoT the lethal for the very next turn, but because he has this mana spare to keep drawing, I think the redundancy of the deck should guarantee he'll still have it, even having used an Arcanist, and the Guild Trader does confirm that the lethal will be in hand even with an Arcanist expended this turn, so he can safely go Arcanist Immolation or Guild Trader Immolation, and that will remove any Battle Master fears on the other side from DragonMan. And no fears of Altar of Fire whatsoever either, because all the combo pieces are in hand for 30 damage, even if DragonMan manages to heal a lot here.
That's right. The only thing that XiaoT doesn't automatically win to is double Cult Neophyte plus heal, right? Because that will stop the Fellscream Blast from being playable, and it will also heal out of the 18 damage range in which the combo would be available with just 1 Guild Trader, so you wouldn't even need to go for the second one. He does get both Cult Neophytes down and a Flesh Giant. It's a very, very aggressive play, but as we can see, just 1 Guild Trader, 1 Moarg, 1 Fellscream Blast. That's going to do it for XiaoT.
Absolutely. That is 18 damage already locked up. Neophyte Auras not doing quite enough here against the power of the early Kurtrus.
I got it all.
A bit curious why DragonMan held out on the last Flesh Giant after all of that, but it's all a formality here. XiaoT taking a clean 3-0 sweep. DragonMan had very little he could do to fight back against that, but XiaoT just clearly demonstrating, even after all of these years in the Hearthstone scene where we've built him up and talked about his reputation, no signs of rustiness whatsoever.
Yeah, I think XiaoT was just looking absolutely impeccable there. DragonMan, like I was saying, I doubt he'll be too upset with how that went. He's 7-1 anyway. He's, I think, just guaranteed to get that top 16 anyway with how that series went. And the very important thing for him as well, it's looking extremely likely that he will be a Grandmaster in next season of APAC Grandmasters. So huge congratulations to him just for that, if that turns out to be true, as we suspect it to be. And we'll be seeing more of him, I imagine, tomorrow when we go with the top 16. It'll be great to see him play more. But for me personally, as much of an APAC fan as I am, I'm a big XiaoT fan as well. And him doing well again really hits home. I'm really glad to see him doing well.
Yeah, same here. It's been a while since we've heard a big result from XiaoT, honestly. Despite him being one of the most experienced players, it's just felt like China's been fielding more and more great players, even complete unknowns coming out of the woodwork and winning Masters Tours like we just saw from Zhou Qianyu a while ago. And because that was such a lightning fast feature, I do think it's going to take some time before we actually get full confirmation of who our top 16 will be for tomorrow. But basically everybody who has gone 8-0 obviously, and 7-1 are in a good spot, and then a couple lucky people at 6-2 with the best tiebreakers could still sneak their way in there. So for fans of Glory, we did last hear from him being at 5-2 but with great tiebreakers. Depending on whether he won his last series, the hope is still alive to make top 16, but we'll see. More round 8 action right after this.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Masters Tour Undercity. We are going to give you some more coverage of round number 8. I'm Raven and joining me, as you can see here, is Lorinda. And we'll be taking you through a new match from game number 1, I believe, as well, between GivePLZ and nemutagenakuma, who I think I'm just going to try and Yeah, a Sleepy Bear. Or I was going to go for just like Ganaku. I'm not sure where the word splits, unfortunately, because I'm rubbish. But yeah, not the shortest name I've ever cast, so it's going to be a tough one going forward. But yeah, both players going in at game number 1 here, Lorinda. What are you making of these players and their lineups as well?
I mean, GivePLZ has the massive advantage of being on stream a million times before in his life. The lineups, haven't had a chance to look at them completely, or I've got them noted down. Look pretty similar for what I can see, both very aggressive lineups, except for the Warlock on one side, and I guess the Demon Hunter on both sides, but it tries to kill you aggressively, even though it's not actually an aggro deck, right? It's pretty aggressive in trying to do you over in turn 7.
It's pretty interesting as well, because we see, although the lineups are similar with mainly the Druid and the Warlock being the big differences, we are seeing sort of different bans as well. GivePLZ losing out on his Warrior and Sleepy Bear losing out on his Demon Hunter too. So it's just pretty interesting the way those bans change, because, for example, both players are bringing OTK Demon Hunter, so it's not like they're different archetypes within those both players. So yeah, pretty interesting to see overall. But we are going to look at the Warrior list first of all, and it is that more sort of control-y style list we've seen pop around. There's like 2, maybe 3 types of Quest Warrior, but are you a fan of this one, like the slightly slower, more control style?
I like the one Provoke, and I can be talked into the one Barov, though I didn't enjoy it when I played it. I'm not a massive fan of the Mutinous and Rancor stuff going on in the Bulwark. I understand it because you have got time to, I think you talked with Sottle about it earlier, you've got time to sort of have an attack and then reset the board and then just finish them off with the quest. But I just want to hit him in the face, Raven. Honestly, I just think there's not enough little bits and pieces to make it worth your while. So just make sure your curve doesn't stutter is how I would want to play in this particular deck. But it's going well. I'm not going to argue, as always, with the people who are doing well, because it's a popular deck and it's done well for a lot of people this tournament.
Yeah, generally I am with you. I play a more of an aggressive version, but it does still have Barov, because I think Barov just acts like a sort of finisher in a lot of positions, right? It can be good if you're losing an aggro matchup, and it can be good to finish out some games against more control style, sort of like big minion focused decks, which there are a couple of knocking around. And then we are going to jump over to GivePLZ's Face Hunter, who is of course running the old Doggy Biscuit, which is something I like to see, and not going for the Arcane Anomaly though, so not going into like the full crazy like player 1 drop and then buff it to High Heaven, which is a style I've been playing recently, but a good middle ground. I do think just the Doggy Biscuit in isolation by itself is just a good card and should be in Face Hunter, because 2 mana for a 2/3 plus stats, and there's that side effect of not only if, say, you need something else, you can just trade it for something else, but also you can do pretty cool plays with giving certain minions rush when you need it. So I think just on its own, very, very powerful card indeed.
Yeah, and the rush might be more relevant in this matchup against the Warrior, right? Because I played both sides of this quite a lot, and I feel that it's more Warrior favoured than the stats seem to claim. I think that the Hunter looks like it's going to win quite often, but the Warrior tends to find a way, and it will be interesting to see if those tech cards are going to call them in the Warrior, although it's just a slightly different archetype. The slower cards, whether they actually slow down the Warrior's ability or whether they do get that reset we've been talking about. And with the Rancor in hand, we are going to find out.
Let's see how it goes. We dive into game number 1. Again, not the best opening for GivePLZ, but honestly, even though the 1-drops aren't perfect for what you'd like, I think any 1-drop into Biscuit is a good start, because again, you are not often expecting the Warrior to be able to deal with your 1-drop, although I wouldn't be upset if we saw, even whether the coin is used or not, but I wouldn't be overly upset if we saw the Shiver come out just on this turn 1 play to just already slow down some of the tempo.
Yeah, I'm fine with this. I think you get to challenge the board so well. 2/4 is just a good shape against early Hunter minions as well. We see that quite often with Moargs in the Demon Hunter version. I think it's okay to just take your time, play sensibly. The quest is so ridiculous, and there's that Rancor in hand. And of course, I mean, we don't talk about it much, but the Warrior can gain armor as well. You can't just beat them down with Hunter minions, then press the button, because they can press their button to cancel it every single turn.
Yeah, I do think overall the Warrior loses out in general because I think the Hunter's punished less for pressing the button than the Pirate Warrior. I think really the hold there for Shiver was that it can just be done next turn with coin if needed. But it does look like GivePLZ is not going for the biscuit, going to take his time, and it's going to pay off for him really because the options there for Sleepy Bear was like Bloodsail Raider, coin Shiver on the what would have been a 2-5 at that point, right? So could kill it off very, very cleanly.
Right. Interesting now, though, to see how he goes about curving out, because just a Bloodsail Raider, just a 2-3, just seems to get absorbed by a quick shot and arcane shot, etc. It feels like there's a good way to just nothing happen if you play the Bloodsail Raider. I want to get down a minion that's challenging the board. I want to get that 2-4 into play.
I think the Raider's probably fine, because I imagine this is going to be setting up for a potential coin Rancor turn. Whereas if he coins out the if he coins out the 3-drop and there's like any spell whatsoever, the Cargo Guard gets insta farmed by the Initiate, right? Because it'll go 2-5 attack. So I think I like this. It does look like he's going to use that coin now actually and Shiver the 1-2. Okay.
Valuing health extremely highly here, which, you know, is no surprise. You're playing against a Hunter, you're supposed to value your health, but with the Rancor play you were describing, the two seem slightly at odds, but again, haven't played it as much as these players.
Now the option here for Biscuit on the Initiate and then just go Gordon and the weapon into the 2-3, clear that open, have just a very big threatening Divine Shield minion. And again, although Divine Shields don't really hold up too well up against Pirate Warrior in general because of the cannon shots, because of having a relatively wide board, this would be a big Divine Shield minion into an empty board with no real fear of any cannon shots coming out to snipe the shield. So I think this would be a very good timing overall there.
No, absolutely agree.
Yeah, the quest proc here, even if 2 pirates are played, is just draw a weapon, right? So then the weapon would have to go in the Divine Shield. Looks like GivePLZ is going a little bit sideways here and actually like buffing the 2 minions instead, and just choosing to push face and just leaving the 2-3 for the weapon and then the Divine Shield trade there. So still solid, still putting on a ton of pressure.
Yeah, it chipped a little bit of extra damage this way as well and defends the slightly bigger minion. And curves nicely into this rifle. Will you want to use it though? The good thing with the rifle against Warrior in particular is, you know, some of your other traps, your freezing traps, you don't get to use very often and can be quite handy. But yeah, he's just going to proceed to do the damage. Going to keep the Rhino combo for next turn, potentially getting a lot of damage if 2 small pirates enter play.
That's it, right? I think playing the rifle there, even if he swung with the other weapon first, playing the rifle is very tempting just to spend that mana, but the fact that exactly Rhino's the follow-up and you're expecting minions every turn.
Yeah.
This is one of the potentially worst winning hands I've seen for a while for Hunter, right? 3 weapons, a base stat Rhino, looks kind of bad. But GivePLZ is just going to dominate this. This Rancor, not good enough. Would only gain him 2 armor, would use up the whole turn. So I imagine this has to be like Stonewall Anchorman.
Yeah, I think so. And I agree. This Rancor, though, talked about it in the intro. Doesn't he wish that was a small pirate at some point during this whole thing? Again, there'll be other matchups where the Rancor shines, but this has not looked good for the Rancor. And that's just it.
Yeah, that's just like that. No funny business here. Just going for the Rinlin's rifle into the hero power, and a very swift game number 1 going over to GivePLZ. And I agree, and I think this is where my again, I can understand why the cards are in the list, but this is where my questions always come up with Rancor and some of the more defensive options is, well, you wouldn't need a Rancor if you play a more aggressive list, right? Because the more minions you'd have or the more aggressive tools you'd have, the less likely you are to be behind on board where you then need a Rancor, right? So it's just, it's very interesting, this development of Pirate Warrior, where these are all very good players. Of course, Sleepy Bear's currently 7-0 it's been working. I'm not saying it's bad or anything like that, but it's just interesting that a deck with a single, like with the quest as the backbone, has gone like kind of in two different directions by the player base, which normally any quest is fairly linear in terms of deck building. We see a lot of the times. It's not like, oh, there's two completely different styles of quest mage or anything like that, right? It's like they're normally very, very similar indeed. So pretty cool to see that from the Warrior, but it is going to be a loss there for Sleepy Bear. Looks like it's going to switch over though to that quest lock.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that this deck isn't better, but it's not better. I mean, the Slinger feels like it's the perfect card to just slide into this deck and just improve it incrementally without any particular loss, but it feels like this is the fourth deck for a lot of people in this tournament. We've talked about that over various casts. 3 decks sort of pick themselves quite easily in this meta, but Handlock, being played by a lot of people, just doesn't seem to quite be able to stand up to this weight of very aggressive decks now that Mr. Smite's a thing, and also the combo decks that it always sort of struggled against in the first place. It just seems to be tough. But you've got to bring 4 decks, Raven. So
yeah, it is a good deck. It's just where it slots in right now, and I think it's where you actually see the nerve hitting really hard. Is that like 8 every single time to proc the quest is a big ask. Even in the Delete Warlock games, they're nowhere near the speed that they used to be, obviously with before the quest was nerfed. So pretty big deal over there. And again, one of the potentially better matchups is this Demon Hunter, I think, for this Warlock, because if you can get those giants and just big minions like the Anetheron down early, you can put a good amount of threats on board. But if those giants come a little bit later, generally the Demon Hunter is just more consistent at grabbing that win condition.
Yeah, and I miss how many altars there were. I always forget to check if it's 1 or 2
you can
or 0. I'm
check
just going to
for
check
you.
now. I've got
2.
it. It's 2. And that's a big deal. We can... the Demon Hunter does draw all of its cards, so burning cards is a relevant thing. In decks where they don't draw their cards, it's not relevant because they might still be coming off the bottom as off the top. You don't know. It's random. But you can just win by removing key pieces for the Demon Hunter and make their life very, very difficult indeed. And I think that's a big leveler in this particular matchup. I think the Demon Hunter would be favoured without the altars, personally.
Going to keep the Anetheron, which makes perfect sense again. This game plan looks very straightforward. Quest, tap, 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 whatever Anetheron goes. So we'll see that likely to be the pan out. And also it helps that the OTK Demon Hunter doesn't often give Warlock a reason to do anything other than tap in the early game, right? It's not like they're playing out threats or anything like that. So it's not like he has to worry about that being messed with or not. But a Spectral Sight already. Forgive, please, Will. Just give him a quick second thought, I guess, on what he wants to do this turn, but does have that Sigil to lock in a very, very powerful play here with Sigil, natural card draw, the acrobatics if he wants to, and then he'll have to see what he draws next.
Yeah, he's just going to be able to cruise through the levels of the quest. Glide is the card we tend to look out for, but he might not even need that early on in this game.
Backfire's a good pickup, though, here. With players doing powerful things, the reduction hitting Il'gynoth and a Moag is nothing to sniff at, but this backfire on curve is looking pretty solid.
Yep, absolutely. You're in no hurry. The Demon Hunter's not going to kill you anytime soon. You don't have the choice of playing a neophyte to decide what to do there, so looks like a sensible way forward.
I think you just take the overdraw, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think holding the coin would be way more useful than just going like, oh no, I don't want to.
You can just tap. You're up to 10 next turn anyway. Tap, do nothing, draw a card. You're on 10. You've still got a backfire. That also leaves the backfire in your deck, so that if you get a glide in the face, you have a recovery mechanism.
True.
I'll never miss.
So you're actually on second inspection. I prefer this a lot. Getting rid of your card draw against Demon Hunter can just be fatal.
Yeah, and also a nice benefit of that play, right, is just getting rid of the Slinger, which isn't really a big deal, right? Just get the 2-1 out of your hand.
Right.
So, again, if Glide comes out to play, then it means you've got one less bad card to draw in this matchup.
Maybe.
It's still so weird to me the deck no longer actually plays a natural philosophy. It's just got that tight on cards now. Play better, noobs.
I will find a way. I will find
Maybe more and
a
more
way.
card draw for Give, please.
Yeah. And it's going to be cheap. Drawing a lot of good stuff on that one. And is going to just get through this deck incredibly quickly. I think a giant is required sooner rather than later, but it's going to cost so much at the moment.
And Netheron's kind of like a giant.
It is pretty giant. Yeah. Starting point, that's for sure.
Really interesting here. Okay, so he is going to play Tour Guide. What's a little bit tricky here now is that there's 3 minions in the potential raised dead pool, which is a not normally what you're after, right? You normally want to have, if you start in a Netheron, you normally want to just raise dead into a guaranteed Netheron again, because that's how you can actually punish the kill from your opponent. So we'll see if that comes back to bite him or not. But we did see GivePLZ also just ignore the Slinger in the last turn and push the 1 damage to the face instead. So maybe he does it again.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? Because you can see that glide is a big problem in everybody's minds, but there's no glide. And GivePLZ is just rattling off the quest items. At some point he'll have to glide probably just to get the Il'gynoth back in the deck and then get it reduced. But with that 1 point reduction on it already, even that might not end up being essential if he can just keep himself alive.
Maybe.
Just take 8.
Pleasure doing business.
Only 8.
Not enough time.
Well, there's Glide.
Hurts him more than it hurts his opponent, though.
Yeah, Sleepybird's done a good job here. One of the, again, the negative of his last play was that raised dead, but of course the positive was 2 more cards out of his hand, right? So again, it's all in respect to that Glide, and GivePLZ isn't even going to go for it.
I mean, he's played 2 Spectral Sights and an Acrobatics already. So, actually, his recovery from Glide is probably worse than the Warlocks on this particular occasion, right? Takes his head because he's gone to 10 cards, but all the key pieces are basically in his hand.
Right. Like, what would be painful maybe would be like Guild Trader, Arcanist, something like that, right? Would be the ouchie kind of overdraw, but other than that, you'd be fine. All the draw in the world here. Knolls. Touch as well available for that Moarg if he actually just wants to bank the healing while it's there. I like it. Just go back up to 30, make it as difficult as possible for your opponent here to actually do the OTK in one of those sort of janky fashions. But what's most importantly is 9 health on GivePLZ, and 5 of that mana is normally used for Kurtrus this turn.
Yeah.
Needs 4, that's just game.
Battlemaster in hand is going to make that 9 is less than 10, Raven. You're right. That is the game. It's going to be 1-1. What a start to this match.
Yeah, and even though that on the surface might look very silly to be like, well, of course you're just dead to Battlemaster, but if he doesn't play Kurtrus there, he probably just doesn't get to play Kurtrus, and then he doesn't get to the way he's realistically going to do the combo and win the game. So I do like that from GivePLZ. Just say, you know what? If he just doesn't have exactly the Battlemaster, then I'm fine. Unfortunately, of course, for him, he did, and that's going to even up the series again in lightning fashion. These two players are not messing about.
They're really not. I believe we saw Gabby play an almost identical play to that in the playoffs, right? He just played the Kurtrus, closed his eyes, and they didn't have the Battlemaster, so he won.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's like there's no point staying alive if it just means you die in a little bit longer, right? Like, you may as well do what you can to win the game. Looks like Sleepy Bear is going to be on this warrior once again. Again, this more defensive quest warrior here. We'll see if it pays off a little bit better for him this time. The only problem for him now, though, is this defensive warrior's 2 opponents are either OTK Demon Hunter, which, okay, Bulwark of Azeroth, you can always have a quick look at that, but also just this Druid as well, which is this Celestial Anaconda Druid. And weirdly enough, Lorinda, one of the versions that is not running that sort of Smite Survival of the Fittest package or anything like that, right? It is actually just almost pre-mini set of the Celestial Druid or Anaconda Druid, with the help of the Jerry Rigs, of course.
Yeah, to the point now where people I've seen playtesting it just call the deck with Glowfly Druid because they don't have Anacondas in. But this has, like you said, absolutely all of the stuff in it from pre-changes, and so obviously he's very comfortable with this build. And honestly, I like this build myself. I think that it's different to my criticism of how I personally don't like the Warrior deck. This doesn't give up a lot to have the advantage of still having the Glowflies in it. You can still do lots of powerful things, but you can also just still do the slow mode as well. But I like Glowflies. I think they're relevant right now against a lot of decks.
Yeah, though, these are one of the openings that you want as the Quest Warrior, especially if you're playing the slightly more defensive list. It's just all the pirates you could dream of, just in the early draws here. And this is what you want. You want the pirates and all the aggressive stuff now, and then the defensive stuff needs to come out if and when needed. But double overgrowth here for GivePLZ means he is ramping until the cows come home.
Where have the cows been? Where did they go?
I've got to wait till the ramping's done. I've got to ask them when they get home.
Okay, cool. Yeah, with the Fungal Fortunes to back it up at the end of the chain of overgrowths as well. Could be in a good spot. But the problem is, and it's always been the problem for Druid, and that hasn't changed much, if you're getting it hard as a Druid, it often doesn't matter how much money you've got if you're dead. So this is going to be treading quite a fine line. The Fungal Fortunes is going to be very important to see if he gets enough ways to deal with this, or ideally he gets combo, ideally he top decks an Anaconda before the Fungal Fortunes, etc. This damage just hurts.
So much damage. The Cannoneer as well is so huge, and probably, at least for me, the best card in the deck. I think the amount of damage it pushes extra as a 3-drop is absolutely insane. That is a Glowfly, though, and I think GivePLZ just has to go for it, right? Or glow for it.
Nice. He's got to decide whether he wants to nature studies first or after it, so whether he wants to have something going to his next turn, or if he's desperate enough to want the information now, because he could just be dead from 16. It's not impossible.
I got Moontouch draw, and then he can still bloom Glowfly if he wants.
Yeah. Gonna do that, but then he can't ward next. Yes, he can ward next turn. No, he can't ward next turn now. That's the problem.
Well, in some worlds he can, right? If he gets another
Sure,
bloom.
yeah. These can't be totally avoided, but of course the cannons are going to take some of them down.
Oh, these will all be cleaned up, right? There's the 2 damage from the freebooter. There's 2 shivers if he really wants it as well. Like, is easy peasy.
Case of balance. How much does he actually just want to insert into his opponent's face?
Also a chance that, yeah, he could just ignore this and save the freebooter for 2 damage to face next turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
He can just anchor this. Because he's never dead, right? With 3 Glowflies. You're never dead from, like, Solar Arbor, right? He's going to choose to clean this up. But I think he actually could have gone. He was looking at Anchorman. I think he actually could have gone for it there and saved the 2 damage to go face next turn.
This is a lot of damage, however, that just goes face next turn. How do you actually clear this as a Druid if you don't have the Anaconda abilities? You can't challenge it with your own Glowflies, they just ignore them. The Amulet's going to come in handy.
I think this might just be a Cenarian kind of game. You just Cenarian ward and hope for more Artificer.
I think so. Yeah.
Because I don't really see another game plan.
Yeah, there's some pretty good 8s out there. Like, even a Troublemaker is likely to be pretty decent in this situation.
12 plus cannons, but you would have an 8-drop.
It feels like he's got all the pieces and not quite the time, which again is often the case as Druid against these aggressive decks. And by aggressive decks, I mean decks that have defensive cards and don't draw them.
Yeah, I would honestly love to know what he was actually going for there. What did he want that would have been better than Cenarion this turn?
It feels like Cenarion and Prey was definitely one of the good options there. Right? There's a lot of good 8s. Yeah, there's some whiffs and you die, but you're dying anyway this route.
Right.
So I'm assuming there's a good drop that we overlooked somewhere in there.
Oh yeah, this was just lethal to any pirate, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was okay. Well, that was a bit of a strange one there from GivePLZ. I think even though it was a long shot with Cenarion, of course, I think it was a higher chance of that happening than drawing another card that I don't know what he was looking for. I may well be being dumb, which is fine. I'm used to it, but I'm not sure what he was fishing for there to dig him out of that. So yeah, quick game at number 3 there, going to Sleepy Bear. And again, you'll notice a theme. Let's check how many defensive cards were drawn here. Because I'm not classing Shiver, because that's just a good tempo card.
Yes.
Okay, the Provoke was drawn in the last turn, but was not needed. And then, yeah, a whole lot of on-curve Pirates. Seems good. Got the job done.
Yeah, the other reason I like the Cenarion ward at the end there over the play that was made is because then you can play, if you do get lucky, you can play your next Cenarion ward on the next turn, and that's then in a great position to maybe stabilise, or at least, yeah, get on a lot further into the deck. But anyway, now it's back to this Face Hunter. He's got to win one of the next 2 games to get out.
This is a list. I'll tell you now. This has Ramming Mount in it. It has Doggy Biscuit, his Arcade Anomaly. This is such a sick list, and it's such a weird way to play Hunter, because I think most Hunter play for the longest time now, we've never really had like scaling minions, right? It's always been 1 drop on 1, deal 2 damage. 2 drop on 2, deal 3 damage, and that kind of plan. Whereas this, your 1 drop can get out of hand very quickly when you do have those games where you go 1 drop into Biscuit into Ramming Mount, and suddenly it's immune on attack, and also has a death rattle into a 2/2, and he's also just a big minion at that point. So it doesn't have the curve quite yet, doesn't have the 1 drop you'd really want, but that's beside the point. It's not looking too bad for Sleepy Bear here, but GivePLZ does get hold of those Thorn Growth, which is a huge deal against Hunter.
Yep, we talked earlier about how it is difficult for Druid to stem the flow of aggressive cards, but that is definitely one of the better ones to put in there, or to get from there, and to try and slow it all down. And rather a whiff. This is the downside of sort of tricky lists. Okay, Ramming Mount's doing fine here, but it's not ideal. It's not on the minion it wanted to be on. It's just going to make do with what he's got.
They're pretty nice though, because even if a Luna comes out now, there's still a 2/2 on board, which is a really big deal. I think the fact that Ramming Mount has like 3 levels of power, right? It's the stats itself, the immune on attack, which is nice for trades if you have to make them, and then the death rattle is really huge. But
Power of the Wild
even though this is a different build, it's a cool build of Face Hunter, it has the same weaknesses as Face Hunter, which is, well, if your opponent just jams a massive Glowfly early, there's almost nothing you can do to stop it, and you probably lose the game.
Yeah, there's Power of the Wild, there's Eclipse, there's Arbor Up. There's not enough mana to do everything, but he can have an army of 4/4s next turn. How many? Not sure it matters. An army's an army. I mean, obviously it matters if he had 8, it would be lethal, but you can't have 8, so it matters a bit less between 7 and 6.
The old finger here, yeah.
Hope they don't have it play. Why Wolpertinger? Just so you've got more things to challenge the Glowflies with?
It's because, so he has Rhino already. The overkill won't matter on a single minion. It looks like he's playing defensively, right? He traded 1 minion, he's setting this up, and the problem is, if you pick a second Rhino, you're saying your next 2 turns are going to be Rhino. Like, does that ever win you the game? I think that's a pretty hard no. Whereas at least if there's options of Wolpertinger plus maybe Rillin's Rifle's drawn next turn, right? And you can start making things work. Again, we can see, of course, that there's an absolute ton of damage and a ton of buffs available for GivePLZ, but I think for that, the Wolpertinger's more likely to get something done, right? Even this turn, Imagine they weren't buffed. Suddenly there's options of Wolpertinger piercing shot. You can make 2 trades, and maybe you can get out of that situation. Don't get me wrong, it was very unlikely, but you can clearly see with that kind of time frame, when was Sleepy Bear ever going to play 2 Rhinos that game? Like, never going to happen in a million years.
It's 2-2. We've been here about 3 minutes or something.
Yeah, they're not.
What's going on?
About. And the thing is as well, I think, apart from the odd thing, I think they're both playing very well, considering it's the end of the day. It's the end of day 2, which means, you're naturally fatigued from day 1. And obviously, depending on time zones, like, for both these players, it's much later in the night than it is for us, Lorinda. So, fair play for both these players here, keeping control. But, they are playing fast and furious, but we'll see who it pays off for, because now we get Face Hunter versus OTK Demon Hunter. Another strange one where this can swing pretty wildly either way.
Yep, keeps the neophyte to slow down the quest, and you are going to have to beat it into my thick head that this is not a massive Demon Hunter favoured match. I know it's not, I don't even need to be told, but I'm still living in the past, and for me, this will always be Demon Hunter favoured, even if it's not. Those rogue players who just play rogue all the time, so rogue's favoured against everything in their head, in their little rogue world. I'm that in this one matchup, Demon Hunter.
You know what's really bad? I'm that as Hunter, but I do believe I'm unfavoured in every matchup, and that's it's a bad state. I'll tell you that for nothing.
I mean, you might be.
That's when you might be playing the wrong class. There's an expansion around the corner where I'm putting all my hopes into Tavish and what he may look like.
Tavish still to be revealed, I take it. I've not kept up with it
as far as I'm aware,
as much as I would like to have.
Unless he's been revealed within the last hour or so, I don't think he's been revealed yet, but fingers crossed, because those hero cards look insane.
They do. I have seen those. They look like they're going to be a massive change when they come around in 2 or 3 weeks' time.
Oh, this is not the hand, though, here. I mean, it's almost a hero power turn, isn't it? Playing Gordon's not going to achieve much. The only thing you can think about here is at least if it sticks in some weird world, then he has ramming mount to put on top, but this is definitely one of the matchups where you want to do the Hunter thing. You want to hard curve minions and then end it quickly, and that's generally what you want to do every time, but in other matchups you don't have to do it, right? You can have kind of worse hands and still make it work, but that's normally in matchups where damage is permanent, as opposed to against Demon Hunter when you hit Demon Hunter for 2, 3, 5, whatever, and then they just heal it all back.
Yeah, you kind of have to do it twice, right, against Demon Hunter, and you have to make sure the first lot sticks. When they heal it back up, then you come in with the second wave and finish them off.
And the problem with delayed minions is then the minions are coming down in 1s and 2s. You kind of just plopping them onto the board, and Demon Hunter just plays 1 AoE before they've even attacked, and they're gone. So they're not achieving anything, so really, really tough to deal with here. GivePLZ looking to be quite comfortable as he progresses this quest and gets some pretty solid picks as well, right? You can just cast both of those if he wants this turn.
Yep, looking tidy, again, progressing through the quest nicely, although he did that last time and didn't get it done, so who knows, but...
Not against a hand like this, though, Lorinda. This hand's pretty rough for Sleepy Bear.
Has Doggy Biscuit made Wrangler significantly better? It feels like Wrangler is a fantastic card, but it's a 3-4 for 4 that doesn't instantly affect the board. With a chance to trade it and give it some rush on turn 5, has that made it a thing?
You can do, but weirdly enough, I found myself doing plays where you play Wrangler for Wolpertinger, then just Doggy Biscuit the Wrangler. Right, like it's just
it's just better, bigger.
It's just a big minion at that point that can already attack that turn. So yeah, I think it's just good because a lot of the time you are playing these weird minions. Like for example, Gordon, right? You play a 2/1, yeah, it gives Divine Shield or deals a damage. That's pretty good. But if you've just got it knocking around on the board and then you just give it +2, +3, well, suddenly, that's a dangerous minion.
Yep. Talking of dangerous, there is an Il'gynoth in hand, and against a Hunter with a lot of cards, that's going to be irritating. He is going to have to slow this game down a little bit. Never going to want to glide into this Hunter hand. We have seen matches today where that wasn't so bad because the Demon Hunter sort of emptied their hand, but this is the exact opposite of that.
I mean, even here, right, there's Moarg, I-Beam, And then Hero Power Swing. Kill off the ram as well. Like, that just looks fine. I think, again, in this matchup, you do not need to OTK them. You just push them off the board, and then they never really get anything. Again, it's something where, for example, GivePLZ could just play an Il'gynoth out in this game if he really wanted to, if he was ahead.
Yeah. Always a bit annoying having to face down potential Rhino on turn 5, of course. So I think that's what the big pause was about, like making sure, A, do I care about a Rhino, and B, what am I going to do about it if I do care? And the answer is I'm going to play a 7/7, and I'm on 30 health, so I don't care.
Yeah, and that's it, right? In this instance, especially against a Moarg, a base Rhino, so without the War Song, is dealing 1 to your face with this trade. You're like, oh, okay. That's fine.
Piercing shot. How long it took me to realise it doesn't do.
Oh, when I first saw those cards, I was like, hold on a minute. Hunter just suddenly the best deck in the game, because that would be sweet.
It makes me happy to realise I'm not the only one who has these thoughts.
I can't wait, and I'm sure one day, Hunter will be like the best combo deck in the game. I want that to happen, where after years of just not being, Hunter just has some like really sick, really efficient, really strong combo.
Have you considered like that they might just be doing it to spite you, and if you saying that, it's just never going to happen?
Probably. Or I'll keep saying it so I annoy them enough. But stop talking about Hunter combos. No. Stop talking about when they exist. Yeah.
All right. So 7/7 on the board, going as wide as possible here, but. What is the but? Yeah, there's plenty of removal. There's
but is the Immolation Aura. The Immolation Aura is the but.
Very nice. Just 7/7 to the face all the way, right?
Yeah, I think
in the base.
This is really interesting that GivePLZ is like aggressively drawing here. I guess you can still make the play I want to, where it's like Immo and then just play Kurtrus. To kill off the rest of the Wrangler.
That's what I wanted to do. There's also like Arcanist, Fellscreen Blast, Arcanist, Fellscreen Blast, go to 30, you've got the 7/7 and 2 other minions, and you just hit them.
I mean, next turn he just wins, right?
This is fine, yeah.
Il'gynoth, double Arcanist, Fellscreen Blast, I-Beams, whatever you want. He's just winning on board as well. And yeah, this just wasn't it, unfortunately, for Sleepy Bear.
No, the Hunter just couldn't get it done. Didn't look like getting this one done. See, this is my bad positive reinforcement of my opinions, right? Yeah, this always happens, Raven, every single time. Despite the fact that it just
I will say, like I said at the start of the game, I do think this matchup, you can argue who's favoured or who's not, but I do feel like whoever wins very much wins the game, right? Like the Hunter either steamrolls because the Demon Hunter can't get cooking or doesn't draw AoE or anything like that, or the Demon Hunter does something like this where they just bat aside all the minions, or if the minions are even played, and then just pressures afterwards. And you also know that there's so much healing potential. So GivePLZ is going to take that victory, and they're looking strong to not only round out that match, but round out the day here, as I do believe that means round 8 is going to be done with. I feel like this has gone by in the blink of an eye, but Swiss is just done for this tournament now. We only have our top 16 left.
Absolutely, and GivePLZ not letting up at all, making it to Grandmasters through this system, picking up so many points, been very close in playoffs and championships, etc. in the past as well, and just continuing after he's made it to Grandmasters. It's really cool to see it.
Yeah, just really strong, and it's when you know these types of players are players who want to compete, right? It's the type of players who will sign up to tournaments that, it's not really about the prize pool, it's not about this, it's not about, it's like, no, I want to like compete in the game, right? Regardless of success or not, it's just about playing the game, so I do like to see it here. GivePLZ, yeah, taking the win, although I will say, looking at that, it was, funnily enough, both players end that round on the same score, because GivePLZ was 6-1,
right,
and Sleepy Bear was 7-0, right? So both players will end on 7-1 for the Swiss, and I think very shortly we get to see the standings and see where the top 16 lie, and I'm sure, Lorinda, you'll have some great thoughts on what this top 16 looks like when we get to bring it up here. So any big names you're keeping an eye out for here, Lorinda?
Honestly, I'm going in blind on this one, other than Fury Hunter, who I know's made it in, or should have made it in. Oh my goodness.
Easy 8-0.
Yeah. that's great to see XiaoT back and on top of the lineup. DragonMan's having the tournament that, as he thinks, secured him to APAC GM. Sherlock's not messing about. He doesn't take any at all. GivePLZ, we've just talked about. Levick, we saw him on stream looking very accomplished earlier in the day. XHX, a player who had a marathon match with Bunny Hopper a couple of years ago in the Chinese league. And I was expecting to see Fury Hunter on there. I wasn't expecting to see him in 16th place, though. But also, glancing down this, it doesn't look like Europe are having a particularly good tournament compared to what they normally have.
Yeah, we have a Fury Hunter though, so it'll be fine. I do think as well, China again looking good. XiaoT, W Stone, VK, XHX, and so on. So again, shock horror to no one. A good performance by China so far. I do believe we've got the bracket that we can see as well, so we can actually see where those initial matchups land. So for anyone looking forward to tuning in tomorrow, which I'm sure you are, we will be showing at minimum one top 16 match, and if time permits, we'll show some more. But basically, we see one top 16, and then after that, every match to finish out the day and crown our champion. But already, Lorinda, XiaoT versus Fury Hunter.
Right.
Single elimination.
What a match to have in the top 16. That is going to be an absolute classic.
Be right
but
back.
I'm excited as
An
well.
official request that be the first match we show on stream.
Agreed. Seconded.
Yeah,
but down in the bottom right-hand corner as well, MT Silver Moon winner Zhou Shenyu. We could have the last two finalists. They're in opposite halves of the draw. The last two champions playing each other for like some sort of champion of champions fight. I don't know how to word it. We'll think of something clever if that happens.
Yeah. And it's just great, isn't it? Because the more these Masters stars, obviously the system has been going for a while now, but the fact that we're just like, oh yeah, the last few winners are just in top 16, it's kind of incredible, right? And something I think a lot of us have like over the years almost trained ourselves not to expect because of the nature of how card games work.